Have you ever woke up in the middle of a dream and the dream was so interesting that you wanted to go back to sleep to see the end of it? If so, what was the dream? I had a nightmare a couple years back, and I still remember some bits. I was in a city where there was an outbreak of a disease. Infected people would start leaking black stuff from their eyes and noses and attack non-infected people. For some reason, I was walking in a part of the city that was completely deserted a couple days after the outbreak. Very faintly I heard someone crying. I approached and found out that it came from a backyard. If I wanted to see who it was, I had to climb a high fence. When I walked into the backyard I was fucking horrified. There was a crying little kid, like 3 years old on a leash, tied to a pole. I didn't dare to approach, because that child was leaking black stuff from the nose. I woke up after this, and was still horrified. The parents had to leave their child who was still alive, chained to a pole outside. That f***ed me up for a couple of days. I would watch this movie, make this whole thread into a movie, and I'd watch it. The main character has to survive during an outbreak that's being caused by a fascist regime which the main character has to fight with the help of a gay pope and a friendly ghost. Who are there? I dreamt that I was part of some Eastern European resistance movement who had to speak in code and hide out in abandoned manors in the forest to plan our attacks against some fascist regime. We enlisted the Pope to help us, but when we went to meet him, he has double-crossed us because the regime we were fighting somehow knew the Pope was gay and was going to tell everyone. I woke up then, not knowing if my resistance group was executed or if we escaped somehow. I call it my gay Pope dream. One of my other vivid dreams involves hiding from a mass murderer in a giant dump under a huge pile of garbage. I dream weird shit. I was friends with Jesus in the modern day, and he was sound, not preachy. One of the lads like. I learned I could fly, but I had to teach myself. Woke up right as I was gearing up for the big test to see how high I could go. Force myself back to sleep, and lem tell ya flying in a dream is way too f***ing fun. I always have dreams where I can fly for about 2 minutes until I realize how cool it is. Then I fall to the ground and can't figure out how to fly again. It's very frustrating. That's because you're thinking about it. If Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy taught me anything, it's that if I want to fly then I absolutely cannot think at all about flying while I'm flying. That's exactly why, not even joking. If you worry about monsters showing up, then they'll show up. It's why chase dreams are so thrilling. You're always thinking about getting away so naturally you never get away. You can only dream about things you think about, so the result should be obvious. You dream more about things you think about the most. Similarly, the more you think about something, the more realistic it becomes. If you think hard about jumping, then you think about the properties of the act of jumping. Then you realize that you're jumping way too high, and suddenly you can't anymore. If you just accept it and think, I guess I can jump really high. Cool. Then you'll be able to do it for as long as you just accept that it is a property of you. I used to have lucid dreams in my early to mid 20s. As soon as I'd realize I was asleep, I'd start flying or just rising to the ceiling because it was a cool way to test it. Then my immediate thought would be who should I pretend sleep with? And the excitement over that possibility woke me up every damn time. A moment for our fallen bro. The tragedy of Icarus. Was exploring a jungle with a group of, I assume, friends. We ended up discovering some kind of temple, but it was dark, so we decided to set up camp. I was charged with gathering dry wood and leaves for the fire. While macheting my way through vines, I heard my name being screamed by one of the group members in a terrified way, repeatedly. Woke up to see my mom yelling my name and to get the f*** up already. I never found out what that temple was. Edit. I have never watched any adventure movies like Indiana Jones or Jumanji, nor have I played any Uncharted game. This is going to sound crazy, but I had a dream exactly like that, and one of the people in the camp went missing. But it continued, and we found out there were jaguars in the area. I'm not joking about this at all. Same dream and I've had it multiple times. We're exploring after finding the temple, I guess. It was always a very obviously ancient but important ruin that we had to explore. I get tasked with finding brush, or twigs or dry wood. I'm walking around, and I just hear the scariest shrill. I run into man is there. He ties me to a barbecue/grill and asks me to pick a war. I wake up. Edit. Almost every time I've had this dream I've thought the scream was from my little sister, even though I show up and no one, except the man and the grill and some wolves are there. Edit. I like people's interpretations that these are all dreams that might relate back to more nomadic or caveman times. But pick a war? I still wonder all the time what that could mean. A few months before I got married I had a dream where Bill Murray was attending my wedding and asked to make a toast. I happily agreed. Then, before I could hear the toast, I woke up. Not one single dream, but often I'll dream that I've met a girl that I'm madly in love with, and when I wake up I feel like I've lost a soulmate. Really strange and sort of depressing. I've had this same feeling. Like an actual emotionally strong developed bond just disappears very slowly as you wake up. I've had 2 variations of this dream that are imprinted into my brain because of how vivid they were. The first, she died from cancer and I woke up and was legitimately grieving for someone that didn't exist. The second, she whispered some Lovecraftian into my ear and it was a truth so horrible I couldn't comprehend it, and as that revelation settled itself into my mind I died and woke up in the instant I died. After that one I was rather unsettled the rest of the day. Thankfully my wife found my dream affairs amusing, though now I wonder what forbidden knowledge she has. I've been having dreams like that a lot lately. There will be a girl, sometimes my girlfriend, sometime not, and she will say something, and I'll start crying profusely. I can never really hear what she's saying, or maybe I just never remember, but whatever it is, it's really f***ing sad. I had a dream where I was riding ATVs with some friends and we came across this house that was under construction. We played some games and then went to sleep. In the dream I woke up and saw a pair of legs swinging through a gap near the floor in the unfinished wall and knew instantly that I was just sleeping next to a suicide victim. I was filled with such a feeling of dread. I think it's the most vivid thing I've ever felt in a dream. I had this dream when I was in college, but I didn't just meet the girl. In this one dream, in one night we lived a whole life, 3 kids. Dream family. I don't remember if she died in the dream or if I just woke up randomly, but I was mentally out of it for days. It legitimately felt like I had woken up in the past rather than the present. I've had this same dream almost. Family, kids, a whole life I lived. In the dream my mom died. I planned her funeral, got her affairs in order, then buried her. Got through her death with the help of my wife and continued to live my life. Then one day I kissed my kids goodnight and went to bed. Woke up in my childhood home, confused and disoriented. Walked to the kitchen and there's mom making breakfast. I just froze. Didn't talk to her for days. After being that's how long it took me to accept it was a dream. That happened almost 20 years ago and I still think about my family. I once dreamed that all of my family and closest friends were on the world's largest cruise ship. Along the way, we somehow were exposed to radioactive waste that gave us all superpowers or other mutations. I remember so vividly being able to use my mind to move objects with ease, and I threw donuts at my brother, whose skin had turned as hard as stone. This one girl on the cruise, that we all universally hated, for reasons I can't remember, received a really random and useless mutation. She grew a really fat lizard tail, like a leopard gecko who has eaten a lot lol. She was crying about how ugly she was now and all we could do was laugh. Then I woke up. I was eating the most delicious chicken nuggets ever. A long time ago, I had a dream that there were ghosts living in my family's garage. Nowhere else, just the garage. I somehow became friends with one, but she was unable to speak to me, leave the property that the house was on, and wasn't able to show any facial expressions that wouldn't be considered terrifying. Me and my ghost friend were playing on the house porch and 2 guys were trying to break into the house. She tried to stop them by scaring the living heck out of them by making a terrifying face and screaming the most blood-curdling scream ever right in their faces. I wasn't able to see the face she made, but I somehow knew it was there, and all I could hear was the scream. The people trying to rob the house ran off, but instead of celebrating, I curled up and started crying because of how terrifying the scream was. I absolutely loved that ghost, and I forgot that her whole purpose was to scare people, but she did it to protect me and the house. I still cried though, and she tried to cheer me up the best way she could. Then I woke up. I knew that was a dream, but I didn't want to leave my ghost friend alone, knowing the last time she saw me was when she scared me to tears by accident. I tried to go back to sleep, and I did, and I somehow successfully re-entered the dream, only it was several years in the future. The garage still had a couple of ghosts in it, but not nearly as much, and the rest seemed to be oblivious to humans. I was going into the attic and found some pictures in there of me around the age I was friends with the ghost, and on a picture I saw a very faint image of her face standing next to me. I went down the attic and woke up. I didn't get to tell the ghost that I forgive her or anything, and I still feel some sort of emotional attachment to her. It was probably the best nightmare I've ever had, and one of the dreams I wanted to go back to the most, just so I can tell her that there are no hard feelings. Edit. Thanks for comments everyone. I was just procrastinating and scrolling through Reddit and saw this post and thought, oh yeah, that happened to me once. I was seriously not thinking much of it and wasn't expecting this many people to be interested in it. This has made my day. How many people have interest in this? Thanks. Another Reddit for good reasons. For y'all out there, this is about my dream where ghosts exist, and one of them I became friends with. I appreciate the support in the comments, but please stop wishing/hoping that we meet in real life. A ghost is a ghost. I would feel physically ill if I saw a ghost, wholesome or not. Thank you for your time. Emotional attachment dreams are so weird. Like you did this important thing, or had this amazing friend, and then you wake up and none of it was ever real. It's such a weird feeling. I have a story about when the opposite of this happened. It was a fucking epic fantasy dream, let me tell ya. Evil wizard of some sort, that I'm pretty sure was my 8th grade math teacher, kidnapped princess, a worthless but snappy sidekick that was my best friend Irol. This dream had everything. So I beat the bad guy, rescued the princess, and brought her back to a village of, I think, Uoks or something, I dunno. Big celebration, everybody went hooray and stuff, and then it didn't end. We just kinda stood there looking at each other. It felt like a long time. Uoks just kinda start milling around and doing their everyday shit. Made some small talk with the princess, and then eventually the dream ended and I woke up. It was a strange one. Edit. 2 words. This was like the 4th strangest dream I've ever had. I had one where I was wandering through my hometown for what felt like hours, and eventually the dream became lucid, and the dream dragged on, and I was just walking around looking at stuff. Eventually I started thinking that I'm probably late for school since the dream went on for so long, and I tried to figure out a way to get myself to wake up. I tried lying down on the ground and thought that people walking on me would probably do it, but it didn't. I didn't feel a thing. So I lied down in the middle of the road and a car hit me, and right before it hit me, I woke up in the middle of the night. I researched the how not to wake up from a lucid dream problem, and tried a couple of the techniques. I found the one with the most success for me was once you know you are lucid dreaming, start spinning. I had more successful lucid dreaming adventures after trying that a couple times. I died in one of my dreams, so that was startling, but I was dead for a good 15 seconds or so in my dream, so that was interesting to say the least. My son is in the Air Force and has been stationed overseas the whole 3.5 years he's been in. He's in for 6 years instead of 4. So, anytime I dream about him, I want to go back to sleep to see him a little longer. I had one this morning. I'm a heavy sleeper, and whatever goes around me tends to get in my dreams. It's a curse at times, but this morning I had an Amber Alert at 3:30 AM, and my dream went from being okay to my friends getting incinerated by a nuke. I was the only one that survived, but by the time I was about to leave the bunker to see the devastation, I woke up turning off the alert. I had a nightmare about being a teenage girl with a group of friends on bikes hiding from and hunting down a shadow monster that killed dogs, and we tracked it down to some abandoned house and tried to rescue the dogs, but one of the dogs started barking and I had to try and calm it down before the monster came and got us, and my friend screamed from another room but the do. Then I woke up and I will never know if those dogs survived. I've recently become disabled. My dreams are of walking without pain or a limp. I'm so disappointed when I wake and my disability is still there. Oh boy, here we f***ing go. I had this dream which I still remember vividly, even if I was 9 to 10 at the time. So, I was walking down the street and met my primary school teacher, a cute old lady with the driest humor ever. We talked for a bit and she invited me over to talk and drink some tea. I enter her house, she makes the tea, and we sit in this area with 3 walls made out of bookcases. In between there were these 2 somewhat fancy chairs and a round low coffee table. We talked for a bit and she starts telling me how she brought me here for a good reason and she just does some magic or presses a damn button or whatever and a wall opens exactly like in Dexter's laboratory. She invites me in and I see all these people doing a variety of stuff. People being tied to metal hospital tables, in tubes, whatever. Everything had this technology kind of blue and I walked through this huge mall like revolving door. I realized I fell asleep a bit after walking, so it must have had some kind of sedative or something. Anyway, I wake up, and in my fear I'm tied to a metal table, without any skin. I can see my muscles, all of them, move, twitch and contract all, while I'm fighting to break loose from the table. That teacher comes by and says to me in the lines of "Don't worry, it's all part of the procedure." I see other people around me, exactly in the same state. She releases me after a bit. She gives me this spandex dark blue suit and told me to wear it. After I put it on I could move like somewhat of a superhero. I could run really fast. I could jump really high. I was very agile and nimble. She told me I'm some sort of recruit and that she has a mission for me. After that I just remember teleporting to some place by my home with a gal that I knew by me as my duo with the task to catch this black invisible morphing dog. I remember aiming at that thing with something like this bulky black blaster, after which I woke up. You can tell that my young me was very pissed for not being able to be a superhero.